So we're diving into cloud security for manufacturing today. And I have to say, the more I read, the more I think about how much the manufacturing landscape has shifted.
It has been pretty dramatic, hasn't
It
it?
really has. It's like we've gone from, factories with those big, heavy locks on the doors to this whole digital ecosystem. And I mean, ecosystems have a lot of entry points, right?
That's a great way to put it. A lot of entry points. And that's really what makes this shift so fascinating and honestly a bit unnerving. We're talking about a level of interconnectedness that fuels so much innovation, so much efficiency, but like you said, it creates more opportunities for things to go wrong.
And they are going wrong. That article we talked about, the one about the automotive manufacturer getting hit with ransomware, talk about a wake-up call. Production lines completely shut down, supply chains thrown into chaos. It's kind of terrifying to think about what's at stake.
Absolutely, and I think that case really illustrates a core issue. The manufacturing sector, for a long time, has been playing catch-up in a way. There was this intense focus on operational technology, the how of production.
The machinery, the assembly lines, all of that.
Exactly, and less emphasis on the how to protect all of that in this new digital age.
So we're talking about systems that weren't really designed with today's cyber threats in mind.
Exactly. And the problem is even more complicated because now we're seeing this convergence of operational tech with information technology. All those sensors, robots, control systems, they're all connected to networks now. And while that's essential for efficiency, each connection point becomes a potential entry point for an attacker.
Right. So it's almost like every benefit of this interconnectedness also introduces a new vulnerability.
I think that's a good way to look at it. And we're not just talking about some bored teenager trying to hack into a system for fun. This article even mentions industrial espionage as a growing concern.
Companies going after proprietary designs, those secret formulas that give companies their competitive edge.
Yes, those designs are like gold to the wrong people. The potential damage is enormous.
Absolutely. And I imagine the fallout for a company that falls victim to that kind of attack has to be significant.
Huge. Financially, it can be devastating, but then there's the hit to a company's reputation, the loss of market share. Imagine spending years, maybe even decades, developing a product, only to have those blueprints stolen.
It's almost like the business equivalent of identity theft. And then on top of that, you have the cost of a data breach itself.
Right, and it's not cheap.
That IBM report you shared, the one that put the average cost of a data breach in manufacturing at $4.24 million.
4.24 million
Ugh.
in 2022 alone. It's a big number, and it really underscores why manufacturing has become such a prime target.
So with all of these factors in play, it seems like those traditional security measures, they just don't cut it anymore.
You hit the nail on the head. And that's where, at least from what I've been reading, the idea of these cloud-based security solutions comes in. It seems like a real potential game changer for the industry.
Okay, so cloud-based security. I'll admit, I'm kind of curious about what makes it such a good fit for manufacturing. It seems like a pretty complex sector.
It is complex,
Yeah.
and that's actually part of what makes cloud security so effective. It's not just, slapping an app on your phone and calling it a day.
So it's more involved than that.
Much more. Think real-time threat detection and response. It's about leveraging the power of the cloud to do what traditional security measures really struggle with.
Okay, so instead of scrambling after an attack happens, you're trying to get ahead of it.
Exactly. Proactive, not reactive. Imagine a security system that's constantly monitoring your entire network. Every sensor, every machine, every connection, all being watched for anything, any little thing, that might be a sign of a threat.
And that's something that's just not possible with traditional systems.
It's the cloud that makes it possible. Think of it this way. Instead of being limited by how much physical hardware you have, cloud-based solutions can grow and adapt to protect even the most complex environments.
So it's scalable. That makes sense.
And because it's in the cloud, they can be updated quickly to respond to new threats, so manufacturers always have access to the latest security tools.
So it's not a static solution. It evolves as the threats evolve.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the companies that's really at the forefront of this, 4Geeks.
The ones from that article, right? What's different about their approach?
Well, they've got this multi-layered approach that really caught my eye. They combine real-time threat detection with robust endpoint protection and data encryption.
Okay, so a lot of jargon there. Can we unpack that a bit? Let's start with that robust endpoint protection. What does that even mean in, a manufacturing setting?
So you've got all these sensors, robots, all part of the industrial Internet of Things, right?
Right.
Well, often those devices are the weakest link because Honestly, security wasn't always top of mind when they were designed.
I see. Yeah.
So 4Geeks, they come in and they help lock down those endpoints, those individual devices, ensuring that even if a hacker does get through one door, they don't get access to the entire building, so to speak.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about that other term, data encryption? Where does that fit into the picture?
Remember how we talked about protecting those proprietary designs, the really valuable stuff?
Yeah.
Data encryption is like having a digital vault for that information. 4Geek solutions encrypt data,
Huh.
both when it's being transmitted and when it's just sitting there in the cloud.
So even if someone manages to break through all those other security measures, they still can't actually read what they've stolen.
Exactly. It's about adding layers of protection. But here's the thing that really impressed me. 4Geeks understands that even with the best security, sometimes, well, breaches happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. There are some pretty clever people out there who are, unfortunately, looking for ways to exploit these systems.
That's the reality. So 4Geeks also focuses really heavily on incident response. You know, what happens after a potential breach?
So they're not just sounding the alarm and then, like, good luck with the rest.
Not at all. They help manufacturers minimize any downtime, recover quickly, and then, and I think this is really crucial, they provide forensic data to figure out what happened.
So it's like they're not just the cleanup crew, they're the investigators too.
That's a great way to put it. They help you understand how the breach happened, what was impacted, so you can prevent it from happening again.
That's pretty comprehensive. But I have to imagine that on top of all of this, manufacturing companies also have to deal with, regulations.
Oh, absolutely. Compliance is a huge concern in the industry.
And trying to stay on top of that with a traditional security system, I bet that's a nightmare.
Oh, it can be, but that's where the cloud really shines. 4Geeks actually bakes compliance right into their platform.
Wow, so it sounds like they've really thought of everything. I mean, from those initial vulnerabilities to dealing with an attack if one does happen, and even all that compliance stuff, it's a lot.
It is impressive, yeah. But what's really interesting to me is how this actually impacts innovation.
What do you mean?
Well, if you're a manufacturer and you're confident in your security, it kind of frees you up, right?
Okay, yeah, I see.
You can fully embrace the cloud, optimize how you do things, even collaborate more effectively without constantly worrying about a cyber attack coming in and messing it all up.
So instead of security being this, like, obstacle, it actually becomes the thing that allows you to move forward.
Exactly. And that's a really important shift, I think, especially because this interconnectedness, it's not just a manufacturing thing.
True. Every industry is dealing with it in some way.
Exactly. And the more we depend on these interconnected systems, the more important, robust, adaptable security is going to be.
It makes you wonder where it all goes from here.
Yeah.
What does the future of cybersecurity even look like?
That's a question I ask myself all the time, especially reading all this stuff. Uh, there are always going to be new threats, new vulnerabilities. I mean, that's just technology, right? But I think the companies that succeed, they'll be the ones who don't see security as a burden.
But as a tool, something that helps them move forward.
Exactly.
Well, I have to say it's been a fascinating, if not a little bit overwhelming, deep dive this week. So thank you for bringing all of this amazing, slightly scary, but really important information to the table.
Of course. Always happy to do it.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us, as always. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe out there.